My name is Eric. I'm 33. 15 years ago, my sister told a lie. And my parents let that lie erase me. They didn't ask questions. They didn't give me a chance. They just opened the door and let them take me. There was no trial, no evidence, and no defense. Only silence. And the sound of a family deciding I was disposable. I didn't vanish. I lived, in shadows, on the edge of society, under a label I never earned. Now, after 15 years, I'm ready to speak. Not to ask for pity. Not to seek revenge, but to tell the truth. The whole truth. Because even if the world forgets you, dignity deserves a name. I was never the golden child. Born to immigrant parents with strict expectations, I was the quiet one, the strange one, the waste of potential. My father was a mechanical engineer who believed success meant order and obedience. My mother, a former schoolteacher, believed in respectability above all else. They wanted a son who could make them proud, who fit the mold. But I didn't. I preferred circuit boards to textbooks and tools to team sports. While other kids played soccer, I took apart old tape decks from garage sales and rewired broken VCRs. I didn't talk much. I didn't shine. So they stopped looking at me. But Lena did. My sister was 3 years younger. She was everything I wasn't. Articulate, brilliant, magnetic. Where I was a question mark, she was a shining answer. She got the praise, the spotlight. And somehow, she still chose to spend time with me. We were inseparable. Every evening after school, she'd slip into my room and sit cross-legged on the carpet, watching me solder or sketch new layouts in my notebook. She asked questions, real ones. What does this resistor do? Why do the wires have different colors? And I answered, patiently, happily. Because for once I wasn't invisible. She even gave me a handmade card once. On the cover, a little drawing of a robot holding a wrench. Inside, to my favorite inventor. You see magic where others see junk. That card stayed taped to my desk for years. I protected her too. When kids at school teased her, I showed up. When she failed a test and didn't want mom to find out, I helped rewrite the grade sheet. We had each other's backs. But something shifted when Lena turned 15. And I turned 18. She started getting attention from boys. The kind of attention I didn't trust. One afternoon, I saw her riding on the back of a senior's motorbike. His hand was around her waist. I waited until she came home and told her calmly, "Don't let him near you again." She rolled her eyes. "He's just a friend. He's 18. You're not my dad," she snapped. That was new. We'd argued before, sure, about curfew, about chores. But this felt like something had cracked. She didn't come to my room that night. Or the next. Or the next. One morning, I passed her in the hallway and tried to nudge her playfully like we used to. She pulled away. Didn't even look at me. I told myself it was just teenage mood swings, that we'd bounce back, that nothing could undo years of trust. But I was wrong, very wrong. It happened on a Monday. The house was quiet, too quiet. Lena hadn't spoken to me in over a week, and my parents acted like that was normal. Like silence was the new language of our family. I was in my room, repairing an old camcorder I found at a flea market. The lens was misaligned, and the power switch was shot. I had just gotten it to power on when there was a knock at the front door. Not a soft knock. A heavy, official one. The kind that makes your stomach twist before you even know why. I opened my door just enough to hear voices downstairs, a man, a woman, then my father's voice, low and confused. I heard the words, Child Protective Services. And my name. That was when I knew. Before they even came upstairs, before they even looked me in the eye. I knew. The woman introduced herself calmly and kindly. Too kind. She said they needed to ask me some questions. About my sister. About our relationship. I don't remember much of what I said at first. I remember showing them the camcorder I was fixing. I remember trying to explain how Lena used to help me organize wires and hand me tools. How she liked learning about what I did. They didn't care. They had a file already. Statements, notes, Lena's words, handwritten, signed. She said I had been inappropriate with her. Said I used electronics as a cover. That the locked door wasn't for tools. It was to keep her trapped. That I had threatened her not to tell. She said I was jealous when she talked to other boys. That I had told her she was betraying me. It was all fiction. Every word. But it didn't matter, because the moment she said it, the moment she spun that story, she became the frightened little girl. And me, I became the monster. When I looked at my father, I saw it. Not confusion, not even disappointment. I saw certainty. He had already decided. Already chosen a side. Dad, I whispered. You know me. You know I would never. He didn't say anything. Just stepped back. Raised a hand. Not to comfort me, but to keep me away. Behind him, Lena stood. Arms wrapped around herself. Head down, silent. I searched her face for the truth. Any truth. But she wouldn't meet my eyes. Why are you doing this? I asked. She looked up. For a second, I thought she might break. I thought maybe she'd say it was all a mistake. Some misunderstanding. But then she just whispered. Voice trembling. "I'm sorry, Eric." That was it. 3 words. And my life split in two. I didn't fight when they asked me to gather my things. I didn't resist when the officer placed a hand on my shoulder. I walked out of the house like a ghost. No goodbye. No questions. No one is stopping me at the door. It didn't feel real. Not until I sat alone in a gray room with a detective flipping through a manila folder. Not until they pulled out photographs of my room. Close-ups of zip ties, wires, soldering irons, and old blueprints. And called it evidence. Not until they said, "We don't want to hurt you, Eric. Just tell us what happened." And for the first time in my life, I realized the truth didn't matter. What mattered was what people were willing to believe. They didn't put me in jail. That would have been easier, in some ways. Instead, I got something worse. Something that clung to me long after the handcuffs came off. 5 years of probation, a lifetime on the registry. It was a deal my public defender called gift. "Take it," she said. "If this goes to trial, they'll crucify you. But I'm innocent." I told her. She sighed, already packing her briefcase. "They all say that." So I signed. No contest, no admission of guilt, but not a denial, either. And just like that, it was done. My name went on the list. My face in a database. My dignity, gone. The real punishment didn't come from the court. It came from life. I couldn't live within 500 feet of a school. Couldn't take public transportation in certain zones. I had to register with the police every time I changed addresses. And they always came knocking. The first apartment I applied for looked promising. Quiet place. Clean. The landlord was friendly. Until she ran the background check. Her smile vanished. "I have grandkids who visit," she said. "I hope you understand." I understood. That became the pattern. No place to live, no job offers, no friends, no future. Even people who didn't know the full story could sense something was off. I started lying, saying I was a freelancer, that I was between leases. I lived out of my car for nearly 6 months. A Planet Fitness membership became my bathroom. Walmart parking lots became my bedrooms. I ate cold beans with plastic forks. I learned which gas stations didn't ask questions. I memorized the sound of security guards tapping on windows at 3 a.m. But worse than the hunger, the exhaustion, the isolation, was the silence. My parents never called. Not once. Lena, she didn't exist to me anymore. Or maybe I didn't exist to her. All I had left was noise in my head. Questions I couldn't answer. Memories I couldn't kill. I used to look at old photos on my phone. Me and Lena in our backyard, laughing, covered in mud after building a cardboard robot. I'd stare at those images for hours, trying to see it. The moment she stopped being my sister. The moment I became disposable. Some nights, I imagined showing up at the house, standing at the doorstep, forcing them to look me in the eye. But I never did, because somewhere deep down, I knew what I'd find: locked doors, drawn curtains, and that same silence. Eventually, I found work at a scrap yard. The manager didn't ask questions, paid cash under the table, let me work night shifts, sorting through rusted appliances and old electronics. It was awful, but at least I could touch wires again, build something, fix anything, even if it was broken beyond repair. Funny how life works. The world said I was dangerous, but in the dark, surrounded by forgotten machines, I felt safer than I had in years, because machines don't lie. Wires don't betray you. Circuits don't look away when you say, "I didn't do it." People do. It started with a library. I had nowhere else to go. The scrap yard cut hours, and the rain made sleeping in the car miserable. One day, soaked and cold, I wandered into a local public library just to dry off. I told myself I'd only stay a while, just until the storm passed, just until I could stop shaking. But then I saw the computers, the books, the silence that wasn't heavy, but gentle. I sat in the far corner, where no one would look twice at a man with a hood and calloused hands. And for the first time in years I read old schematics, electronics manuals, outdated engineering textbooks with cracked spines and coffee-stained pages. I devoured them like a starving man. Every day I came back, didn't speak, didn't ask for anything. But someone noticed. Her name was June. I didn't know that at first. She wore no name tag and didn't introduce herself. She just started leaving books on the return cart. Always the kind of titles I was already pulling from the shelves: practical soldering techniques, microcontrollers for beginners, DI renewable energy projects. At first, I thought it was a coincidence. Then I noticed the sticky notes, faint pencil marks, circles around key chapters, a tiny message once. Page 42 might surprise you. I never asked why she did it. She never asked why I was always there. It became our quiet routine. One afternoon, I lingered too long. I forgot the library closed early on Sundays. She found me in the tech aisle, half asleep over a book. "You need coffee," she said. The first words she ever spoke to me. I startled, tried to apologize, and tried to leave. But she just smiled. "Stay, if you want." She never pried, never asked why I looked like I hadn't had a home in years. She just treated me like a human. And That was the rarest thing of all. One day, she caught me browsing free online courses. I didn't even realize she was watching. "Are you thinking about learning again?" she asked. I shrugged. "Don't think people like me get second chances." "Who decides that?" Her voice was calm, but firm. She sat beside me and showed me a list of free certification programs: electronics, systems maintenance, even coding. "Education is a right," she said, "not a reward." That night, I stayed up in my car rereading the course modules, wrote out goals in the back of an old notebook. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a ghost. I wasn't the label, wasn't the file, wasn't the one who did that thing. I was just a man, learning again, starting again. And it all began with a librarian who saw through the dirt on my hands and still handed me a book. That night, I stayed later than usual at the library. The rain outside hadn't stopped. Neither had the quiet hum of thoughts in my head. I was gathering my notes when June appeared beside me, calm as always, holding a sealed envelope. "Someone came by earlier," she said softly. "Left this for you." Said it was personal. There was no name on the front, just my first name, printed in plain black ink. I opened it right there, hands slightly shaking. Inside was a single printed email. Subject: "I need to know the truth from Billy. My name is Billy. I'm Lena's husband. I believe she lied to me. I believe she lied about you. I don't know what to believe anymore, but I want to hear your side, if you're willing." I read it 3 times, not because I didn't understand it, but because I'd spent 15 years preparing for this moment. And now that the past had finally knocked, I wasn't sure if I wanted to answer. When you've spent 15 years being erased, you don't expect your name to appear in someone else's story, let alone in the hands of the man your sister married. I didn't know who Billy was. Didn't know what he wanted. Didn't care, honestly. But the fact that he reached out, the fact that he used the word lied, that was enough to make me pause. I didn't respond right away. Didn't trust it. But the next morning, June found me back in the library early. She didn't say anything, just placed a cup of tea beside me and asked, "Are you going to meet him?" I nodded, still staring at the printed message. "I think I need to." We met at a small diner off the interstate. Billy was already there when I walked in, sitting by the window, hands folded, wedding ring tapping against the table. He looked like someone who hadn't slept in days. No handshake, no pleasantries, just one sentence. "She told me you were a cousin, said you died years ago." I said nothing. I didn't even blink. He reached into his bag and placed a folder on the table. "I found this while cleaning out the attic. She never mentioned your name, but I kept seeing it on old school documents, trophies, and an unsent letter hidden in a box." He opened the folder. Inside were fragments of a life she had tried to bury, an old science fair certificate, Eric Tran, first place A high school paper photo caption, Eric Tran and Lena Tran. Solar project presentation, a torn up letter with, "I'm sorry," written on the flap, a printed screenshot of an unsent message from Lena's old email archive. "Is going to ruin everything. I need something louder. Something no one will question." Billy leaned forward. "At first I thought you were some boyfriend she cut ties with, but the dates didn't make sense. And then I found this." He pulled out the school photo, Lena and I, both teenagers, standing next to a science fair poster. She was smiling. I was holding a soldering iron. We looked like siblings. Because we were. I asked her, Billy said quietly. She lied again. Said it was a classmate. Then a distant relative. Then she shut down completely. Locked herself in the bathroom for hours. He hesitated. "She's been drinking more. Getting defensive. Angry for no reason. I've seen her talk in her sleep. Once, she whispered your name. Eric, I didn't mean to. Please." He looked up at me. "I didn't come here to fix anything. I came here because I think my wife lied to the world. And I need to know what she did to you." I didn't answer right away. I flipped through the folder again. Pages of things she had tried to destroy, but never quite managed to. Billy watched me, waiting, not with pity, not with urgency, just patience. Finally, I closed the folder. "This won't be enough," I said. "I know," he replied. "But if there's more, I'll find it. She owes me the truth, and you deserve to be seen." That night, I didn't go home. I sat on a bench outside the library until sunrise, folder in my lap. June came by just before opening hours and sat beside me without a word. After a while, I asked her, "Do you believe in people changing?" She took a long sip of tea. "Yes," she said. "But I believe in consequences more." He came back 3 days later. Same diner, same window seat. But this time, Billy looked different. Not tired, resolved, like a man who'd been handed the truth and had no more use for denial. He didn't wait, didn't bother with small talk. He placed a sealed envelope on the table between us. It was thick, weighted, signed across the flap. "She confessed," he said. I stared at the envelope. Didn't touch it. I needed to hear it from him first. She didn't mean to. He started. Or at least that's what she kept saying. That it got out of control. That she only wanted to scare you, not destroy you. He exhaled sharply. But she admitted it. She said she was dating that boy back then, Jakey. She said she knew if your parents ever found out, it would ruin everything. So she flipped the story. Made herself the victim. Said the only way to protect herself was to make you the threat. His voice went quiet. She thought they'd just send you away. That you'd stay with some uncle, maybe get a lecture. She never expected your father to throw you to the wolves. My stomach twisted. Not at the betrayal that had rotted away years ago, but at how small her reason was. How casual, like my life was just a chess piece she moved to win a teenage mistake. Billy pushed the envelope forward. It's all in there. She wrote everything out. I had a lawyer present. Witnessed. Signed. He tapped the flap. It's enough to reopen your case. More than enough to get you off the registry. I didn't reach for it. Why did she give it to you? I asked. He hesitated. Because I gave her a choice. Our marriage, or the truth. She chose the truth. I don't remember much of what happened after that. I remember staring at the document. My hands were shaking, not because I was scared, but because for the first time in 15 years, someone finally believed me. Not just emotionally. Not quietly. Legally. It wasn't a whisper in the dark. It was a statement on paper. Black ink on white. A reversal of everything I'd been forced to carry. Billy stood to leave. I'm filing for divorce, he said plainly, and full custody. I didn't answer. Didn't congratulate him. Didn't say I was sorry. Because part of me knew he was mourning something, too. Not a marriage, but an illusion. I walked out of the diner with the envelope in my hands. Didn't open it until I got back to the library. June was shelving books. She looked at me, then at the paper I held, and said nothing. I opened it in silence. Read every word. Every lie confessed. Every timeline corrected. Every detail that matched the truth I'd been screaming into the void for over a decade. She even wrote a line at the end. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need to say it. You didn't deserve what I did to you. June sat beside me without asking. After a long pause, I asked, do I go to court now? She nodded. And you fight, this time with the truth. The next day, I called a real lawyer. Not a state-appointed, underpaid stranger who barely remembered my name, but someone who read the file sat back and said, we're going to make them wipe your name off that list. And for the first time in years I believed it. Not because the system had changed, but because now I wasn't the only one holding the truth. Courtrooms have a particular smell. Sterile, cold, like paper soaked in bleach and resignation. I hadn't stepped into one since the day I was told to plead. No trial, no defense, just a form, a checkbox, a future erased. But this time was different. I walked in wearing a clean shirt, holding a folder of truth. Beside me my lawyer. Calm, sharp, focused. Across the aisle, a state official holding the original file. The one filled with assumptions, suspicions, and shame. And behind me, in the third row of seats, sat my parents. I hadn't told them I would be there. But somehow they found out. Maybe Lena told them. Maybe guilt travels faster than logic. I didn't turn to look. Not yet. Because this hearing wasn't for them. It was for me. The judge was methodical. She read through every document. Every statement. She asked questions as she should have 15 years ago. My lawyer presented Lena's confession, the contradictions in her original story, the dated messages, the forged timeline. The psychiatric report suggests manipulation, emotional instability, and self-protective lying behavior in adolescence. The state's attorney barely argued. He wasn't invested. This wasn't a criminal trial. It was a post-conviction relief motion. But the weight of it still sat heavy. Not because I was afraid, but because this was the moment the system would decide if I got my name back. Or if I'd always be that guy. After nearly an hour, the judge closed the folder. She looked at me, not with pity, not with judgment, but with acknowledgement. Mr. Tran, she said. Based on the new evidence presented, this court finds sufficient cause to vacate the prior plea. Your conviction is hereby overturned. You are formally removed from the offender registry. Your record will be sealed. Legally speaking, this never happened. She banged the gavel once. It was quiet, almost soft, but to me, it sounded like thunder. I exhaled. I didn't realize I'd been holding my breath for 15 years. My lawyer touched my arm. You're free, she said. But I didn't move. Not yet. Because now, I had someone to face. I turned around. There they were. My father, gray hair, stiff jaw, eyes that refused to meet mine. My mother, smaller than I remembered, clutching a handkerchief like it could erase what they'd done. I walked toward them. Neither of them stood. Good. I didn't need a performance. I was 18, I said, my voice low but steady. You didn't ask. You didn't wait. You just let them take me. My mother opened her mouth, but I raised a hand. No, don't speak yet. Just hear this. I told them about the years I spent sleeping in cars, about being turned away from jobs, apartments, and humanity, about the tea June made me in silence, about learning again, not just skills, but how to exist, about the scars on my wrists, they never asked about them, about how they chose silence, and how silence made me vanish. Tears streamed down my mother's face. My father didn't move. After I finished, she finally whispered, "We were trying to protect her." "So was I said. "But when it came down to choosing, you protected the lie." I handed them a copy of Lena's confession. "I don't need your apology," I said. "I just want you to sit with the truth, like I had to." I turned to leave. My mother reached out, barely touching my sleeve. "Eric, what happens now?" I didn't look back. Now, I live. Outside the courthouse, the air felt warmer. Not because the day was bright, but because the weight on my chest had finally lifted. I wasn't a label anymore. I wasn't erased. I was a man, documented, proven, and finally named. People always talk about closure like it's a door that shuts. Like once the truth comes out, the pain stops. Like being free on paper makes you free in your soul. It doesn't. What it gives you is space, and space is where I finally started to build something of my own. I moved to a new city. Not to run. I'd done enough running. But to start where my name didn't carry the weight of whispers or shadows. I found a small apartment above a bookstore, cheap, drafty, full of light, perfect. I registered my own business, Tran Repair and Restoration, electronics, vintage audio, DI kits for kids, fixing things like I used to before the world broke me. Funny, isn't it? After all the courts and files and labels, I went back to wires and circuits, not because I needed to, but because I wanted to. June was the first to send flowers, with a note that said simply, "Some people build legacies out of lies. You built yours out of truth." I framed it, hung it above my workbench, right next to the drawing Lena gave me when we were kids. The little robot holding a wrench. It took me a while to stop hating that picture, but one day I realized that robot never stopped fixing, even when everyone else gave up. My name was cleared. My record was sealed, but people talk. Old friends messaged. Some apologized. Most didn't know what to say, so they said nothing. I didn't blame them, but I didn't answer either. Some ghosts deserve silence. Then one day a letter arrived, no return address, no name inside, just a single sheet of paper. "I don't expect to be part of your life. I just want you to know I'm sorry for the lie, for the silence, for everything I took from you." I read it once, folded it carefully, slipped it into a drawer with the others. I never wrote back. Forgiveness, I've learned, doesn't need a stage. Sometimes it's just a quiet decision to stop carrying someone else's weight. Every Saturday now, I teach a free workshop for kids at the library. How to build things with their hands. How to take broken parts and make them sing again. One boy, maybe 10 years old, held up a speaker he just soldered and asked, "Is it supposed to buzz like that?" I laughed. "Only if it's alive." He grinned, and for the first time, I saw it in someone else. That spark, that joy, that possibility. Not because I was erasing the past, but because I was finally adding something to the future. I used to think legacy meant the stories people told about you. But now I know legacy is what survives you, even if no one knows your name. A sound, a wire, a light, a boy soldering his first speaker. That's mine, and it's enough.